What is your understanding of or expectation for LeVeon Bell at this point?
Well, Greeny, he has to come in by week 11 to get credit for the year. So he's going to show up because he wants to get credit for the year so he can become a free agent. But as you look at this situation, it's become so toxic, I really don't know how he recoups the money that he's lost and get the money that he wants on top of it.
What do you think of all this, Dominique?
I mean, I think that's a fair assessment and analysis, but I don't think that they're looking at it that way. I think that the way they're looking at it is, I could get injured. Him and his agent are saying he could get injured this year, and maybe he would have gotten that $14 million. But if he gets injured, he gets a contract going forward that's much less than he deserves. I think he'd rather forfeit a good portion of that $14 million in order to guarantee himself a better contract that'll pay him more than $14 million over several years going forward.
Is he guaranteeing himself that? First of all, the second he steps on a field, which to the point you just made, Jason, he has to eventually do, he runs the risk of injury. And second of all, is he guaranteed of anything? Are there teams out there in the NFL who will look askance at the way he's handling this?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, because he didn't show up for work. However, it only takes one. As long as there's one team in that market for him, he could get paid. Is he going to get what he wants, though? That's I'm not
D-Wood,
sure.
what do you think of all this?
I think I understand where he's trying to take the mileage off, but again, I mean, he left an awfully lot of money on the table right here, and I just don't see any way that he's going to be able to recoup that. I know what he's thinking big picture in free agency. I'm going to make so much money that it's well worth it. But at the end of the day, he's left like what, $8 million on about $8 million on the table, and we know that the NFL, as far as their thinking, is probably the least progressive out of all the other sports leagues. So I guarantee there's a lot of teams out there that are thinking this guy just didn't show up to work. So why am I going to combine that with suspension injuries that he's had in his past? Why should I shell out all this money for a running back?
Well, they're taking the safe route is what I think as far as him not playing. I understand that he still runs a risk of injury, and I understand that he's not going to get that money back that he lost, but he's also has a lesser chance of getting injured when you play in less games. So I think that the move that they're taking is safer and smarter. And as far as like him getting injured in the games, that could happen at any time. So having less games, I think, gives him a better opportunity to get to free agency and make that money.
If he could sit the entire season, I would totally understand. I would be completely on your side. But we all understand that he can't do that. He has to come back and play. So he does not remove the injury risk, and he just costs himself all of this money. No, I'm on his side. I'd like to see this work out well for him.
But I don't think that he believes that he costs himself that money because he is lowering the risk of injury. And I do believe that that team needs him. The team is not the same without him.
Let me show you guys some numbers, because we know there's this phrase that numbers never lie. Now, are they telling us the truth in this circumstance? Through 7 games, James Conner has outperformed LeVeon Bell at the same point last season. Despite 44 fewer touches, Bell has more yards from scrimmage and 5 more touchdowns. Damien, what do you see those numbers? Are they just as good? I'm not going to sit here and say James Conner is a better player than LeVeon Bell. It'd be insane. But are they just as good with Conner?
No, I think Le'Veon Bell is a better player. But I think if you're from the Pittsburgh Steelers perspective, you're thinking cost analysis here, okay? Yeah. You're thinking a guy, I'm getting basically equal production, but a guy who's coming a lot less cheaper. So you know the Pittsburgh Steelers right now, they're sitting back in this whole thing and they're smiling because they didn't have to, put out this big chunk of money when we get a guy that's costing a lot less and balling on the field.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Jason.
Well, thank you. No, the bottom line is that Le'Veon Bell is a better player. You're right. And what you don't know is what you're not getting because Le'Veon Bell is not on the field. You don't know what type of defense they're playing. You don't know what other things would have opened up for other players. So, yeah, the straight production is there, but what are you missing with him not being on the field?
And I know you were looking at some advanced stats earlier.
To Conner's credit, I thought earlier in the season that he was getting a lot of light boxes because people didn't fear him as a rusher. But I looked at the next-gen stats, and he is facing more 8-man boxes than Le'Veon Bell did at this point last season. So Conner deserves that credit, but the impact on the offense is not all statistical. I think Le'Veon Bell as a threat, as a pass catcher, opens a lot of things up. Their defense is a lot based on, or their offense is based a lot on high-lows, getting Le'Veon Bell in that check-down position and linebackers squeezing to it and hitting in behind.
And hitting
big receivers, Antonio Brown, or hitting Juju, or hitting a tight end, somebody in behind that. And if you deepen those linebacker drops to cover that, then you hit Le'Veon Bell and you don't want him in the open field. James Conner doesn't offer that same threat.
And so theoretically, as we sit here and we say the trade deadline has come and gone, teams' rosters are what they are, well, actually, there's one team that is still, in theory, going to add one of the best players in the National Football League, right? So when he does come back and play, which we all believe he has to, where does that put the Steelers?
Honestly, I'm not sure how much it impacts them because I think their offense is solid. That's not the issue with the Steelers. The issue with the Steelers is being able to stop people.
You agree with that?
Chemistry. I mean, think about it. If you're in a groove and James Conner is in a groove, one of the worst things you could do is disrupt chemistry. So it's going to be funny. It's going to be a kind of a funny situation how they integrate him back into the offense.
But they welcome him back, right? I mean, A, they don't have a choice. They have to sign him.
Right.
B, he comes back and plays, right?
Yeah, he comes back and plays. You know what they have? The greatest third down back in the history of the NFL.
Yeah,
Okay?
that helps.